Hi, folks. We're Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about something I really stumbled across by accident. It was always in front of me, but I maybe just didn't notice it, was how quickly brown and black, or even swarthy brown type women in Australia are getting jobs, getting the first job they apply for. And we're not talking, jobs picking apples out in the middle of nowhere or something. We're talking office jobs in prestigious downtown locations, some of the most coveted jobs, reasonably well paid. You can swan around the downtown district in designer clothes and looking important. And so how is it that people who speak very poor, sometimes extremely poor English, or even, obviously English is a second language, so that they're speaking from, say, the quality of English may be, a locally born 10-year-old at best. How is it they're able to get the first job they apply for? And when they decide they want to change job, they can move seamlessly from one employer to the next without as much as a day or a break in between. Now, how is that even possible? So we've got, just visualize this, we've got the third world person who hasn't been in Australia long. They've got piss poor English. They've got very suspicious credentials and qualifications from some third world bullshit Ooga university or alleged university that you can't verify if they have that or not. The job experience they claim to have is, mysteriously, opaque, and that can't be checked on, and they end up somehow getting a job when they've got no qualifications or work experience and can't speak English. Why would any company employ them at all? But the bigger issue here isn't that, which is alarming and concerning enough, because of the perversion of the employment system. If that's, well, not if, it is happening. But how white women who speak excellent written and spoken English, they've got local qualifications and credentials that are superior to the third world, and they've got better experience and local experience in Australia. They can spend months trying to, they can go through 50 job applications before they get a job, even though they're far better qualified, a far superior applicant. So why is that? Now, as best I can tell, there isn't much of a wage difference. There isn't a thing where they're paying the third worlder, a couple of pennies, but they've got to pay the local chick 100K or something. I don't think it's that. That doesn't appear. The position is what's being paid. So the rate for that position is 100,000, or whatever it is 100. I'll use a round number, 100,000, and that's whoever gets that job gets paid that rate. That's as far as I can tell. That's what's going on. So how it came about was there was this Filipino chick, and she'd probably be 40 or something, nothing to look at. In fact, quite the opposite. If there was an ugly competition going on, she'd be well in line to get the first prize. And so she's this tiny little thing, but maybe 5 foot tall. I don't know, about that. 148, 150 centimeters tall. And she was talking about how she hasn't been here that long yet. Her English is like, it's okay, heavily accented and not as sophisticated. She's not a college educated level of English. And so, in fact, I'd say she maybe junior high school, and not a top ranked student at that. So she's got no qualification. She's got some small town college diploma she got in the Philippines. I mean, that's not worth a pinch of shit, for goodness sakes. And yet she gets the first job she applies for. So she came to Australia and got the first job she applied for, she says, and she had no idea there's so much work in Australia and they're so easy to get a job and this sort of thing. Now, she behaves and thinks that she can't comprehend affirmative action DI. She just can't understand it. the rich people can do that, but the DEI and affirmative action would exist. She just can't. So she assumes that she must have got the job because she's a fucking talented chick, seriously talented chick, way more talented than all the white chicks in Australia. Otherwise, how else could she have got the job straight away? First job I applied for. I was off the plane, applied for a job, bingo. They called me in for an interview, got the job, hired me on the spot. So it must be because I'm a brilliant fucking candidate. What other reason could there be? She thinks. Now she's, I'm not sure. I don't think she's a complete moron. I doubt her IQ's 100. 90, maybe 90, sort of around 90, I would figure for her. So, but she's assuming it's a competitive employment market, which it appears not to be. She's competing with white chicks with much better English, much better written and spoken English, better qualifications, higher IQ, everything you would theoretically at least want in an employee, but yet she gets the job. First job she applies for. Decided she didn't like the job. They weren't showing enough respect or something or other. So she thinks she'll get another job again. First job she applies for, straight in there again. So she's of the impression that she must be something pretty fucking special. Otherwise, how else could she get these jobs so quickly? First job so she's claiming that every job she's applied for, so she claims, I don't doubt it, but every job she applied for, she's got. And at the first interview, there's none of the second interview or, you've got to do the medical tests or the psych test. No, just straight she gets it. Now, it's quite obvious to me, given what a low quality applicant she is, an employee she is, that it's obviously affirmative action and DEI. And there's a quota. They've got a certain amount of third world brown chicks they have to have on the payroll. And so she gets the gig. Now, at the same time, and sort of running in parallel, there's a lady that is a good friend of my wife's actually, and she'd be, I don't know, late 40s, I guess, and she has quite the opposite experience. She's having to apply for a lot of jobs. The second and third interviews. There's all sorts of ridiculous carry on and. A generally drawn out process. And so she's finding it much harder, significantly more difficult to get a job than now. She wants to leave the place where she's at. She's got a new boss and the boss is a woman, by the way, but the boss is a tyrant and screams and shouts and has meltdowns and hissy fits and all that sort of stuff. So she, I want to get out of here. So she's looking for another job. Now, she's been looking for another job for months. And, she can't believe just how difficult it is to get another job. Now, I would rate her as being quite credentialed. Now, at the same time, there's a lady who I've known for some time, through in a professional sense. And I've used her a few times to do some things for the business I've got a share in, and would rate her quite highly. She's certainly ticks all the boxes. Is qualified, professional, competent, sensible. Keeps perspective, and that sort of thing. So I'd rate her quite highly. And she's saying the same thing. What a tough time she has finding a job, and yet she's well credentialed. Now, they're applying for, give or take, they're applying for about the same jobs as these third world brown chicks are. So how is it that the unqualified brown chicks are getting the job straight away, first interview? This Filipino chick was saying the interview lasted 15 minutes and she was given the job. And again, in her cognizance, that means she's either brilliant or there's just so much work around and the lazy Australian white chicks won't do it, and that's it. So she's come away with completely. And again, she can't comprehend affirmative action. Why would the white people give jobs away to people that are not of their tribe? That's not possible. That never happens anywhere in the world. Well, it is happening in the white Western world with the globalist elite selling out their own citizens. That's why it's happening. But she, again, can't get her head around that. At the same time, there's quite a few sort of Southeast European chicks, the former Iron Curtain communist countries of Southeast Europe, Bulgaria, Romania, that sort of thing. And they're there's quite a few of them around, and so talking to some of them who I know, mainly through the contacts my wife has and social groups my wife hangs out with, but talking to them, they have the same thing. Australians are so stupid. They're so stupid. I can get a job straight away. No one should be unemployed in this country. Australians are so lazy. And so, here's this. I'm not sure I'd call Bulgaria and Romania third world. The lower end of the middle group, perhaps, in terms of economies, but close enough to the third world. Still a lot of horses and carts out there. So they come here and they again find that they're getting work straight away. This Romanian chick got a job to write up health and safety policy procedures for a company. Now she can't believe it. She says her English isn't really very good. Her written English is even worse than her verbal English. So she says she can't believe she got the job, but it pays higher than the average wage. So it's not like they were hiring her because she didn't. So she's clearly and manifestly unqualified to do that job. A policy advisor for health and safety policies that she knows absolutely nothing about, can't even comprehend it, how it is here in the first world as opposed to where she comes from, where those things don't exist. And so they've hired someone who again can't even comprehend what they're supposed to be doing, and given her the job. Again, she's no hot piece of ass or anything, so it's not like some sleazy, lecherous hiring manager go, oh yeah, I'll get her. She's absolutely nothing to look at. Another midget, incidentally. So she's got every job I apply for, I get. First job I applied for, I got. And there's another one as well who also comes from Southeastern Europe, but she very swarthy looking, looks Arabic more than anyway. She gets the so she's of the same view. These chicks. Another one was a Ukrainian chick, again, heavy accent. Her English is like very ordinary. All the qualifications are from supposedly from Ukraine, I think, or Russia or Ukraine. So, and she had some bullshit job in Russia, just some like an HR administrator, that type of thing. But she can again gets any job she wants, just puts applies for it and she's got it. And the number of white women I know that are struggling to find employment or change employment or get a job if they've been, say, laid off or made redundant or something like that. These brown and swarthy chicks. There's another brown chick from where the fuck is this? I think she's somewhere in South America. Same thing. They're just walking straight into employment. So this can't be an accident. It can't be that all these women with piss poor English and very suspicious, non-existent qualifications of work experience are being hired as soon as they walk in the door. It's got to be DEI, affirmative action, especially when employers have the option of hiring a far superior qualified, much better qualified, much better spoken and so on white chick, and yet they don't do it. They're willfully not doing it. This is not just some accident. So clearly there are quotas, race and gender type quotas in play. But I thought my perception was they particularly and actively militated against straight white male job applicants, which they do, of course. But also now white women are suffering as a result of these things and these affirmative action and race quota type hiring. And these people, the hirers, are so desperate to fill their quota that they're hiring any non-white female that walks in the door is just being gifted the job. How is this helpful for the economy or for the efficient operations of the company or anything when the best qualified people can't get jobs? I mean, for goodness sakes, can you have a worse scenario than that? You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback Channel, and thank you for listening.